Trying to avoid a 1-3 start. Brissett, far side, caught.
Hindsight is 2020, and when it comes to the draft in recent years, I'm sure every team has one little move that they would like to undo. The NFL draft is the most efficient way of building up a long-term Super Bowl championship contender. Unless you're the 2021 Los Angeles Rams, it's almost impossible to build a winner strictly through blockbuster trades and savvy free agent signings. No NFL team is perfect when it comes to the draft, but some mistakes certainly hurt more than others. So today, here's a look at one recent draft pick dating back to 2018 that every NFL team wishes they could have back. Arizona Cardinals, Josh Rosen. The Cardinals traded up with the Oakland Raiders so they could select the UCLA signal caller with the number 10 pick in the 2018 draft. Unfortunately, Rosen never stood a chance in that offense. He lost 10 of his 13 starts and had 11 touchdowns against 14 picks. After one season, he was flipped to the Miami Dolphins as Arizona used the number 1 pick of 2019 on Kyler Murray. Arizona passed on the likes of Lamar Jackson, Jair Alexander, Derwin James, Minkah Fitzpatrick, Nick Chubb, and Shaquille Leonard for Rosen. Yikes. Atlanta Falcons, Marlon Davidson. Atlanta took Davidson with the number 47 selection in 2020, yet they only got 2 seasons out of him. Davidson appeared in just 19 games over those 2 years and tallied a grand total of 1 sack. Among the second-round picks Atlanta could have taken are Trayvon Diggs, Jalen Hurts, Josh Uche, A.J. Dillon, and Jeremy Chin. Baltimore Ravens, Hayden Hurst. The Ravens draft better than any other team, but they'd surely like a mulligan on the Hayden Hurst pick. The South Carolina tight end was taken 25th overall in 2018, 1 pick before the Falcons took future star wideout Calvin Ridley. Hurst recorded just 43 receptions for 512 yards and 3 touchdowns in his 2 seasons with Baltimore before he was then traded to Atlanta. Buffalo Bills, Cody Ford. Bills GM Brandon Beane has mastered the art of drafting, to the point where a 2019 second-round pick is the only recent blemish on his resume. The Bills took Ford 38th overall in 2019. Now, he wasn't awful by any means, but he only lasted 3 seasons with the franchise before moving on to Arizona. Buffalo also passed on future star wideouts such as A.J. Brown, Terry McLaurin, DK Metcalf, and Deontay Johnson in favor of Ford. Carolina Panthers, Greg Little. Carolina used the number 37 selection on the Ole Miss offensive tackle, hoping that he could provide some long-term stability on the O-line. Little appeared in just 14 games over 2 seasons with Carolina before getting traded to Miami in 2021. Chicago Bears, Anthony Miller. The Bears gave up their 2019 and 2020 first-rounders to the Raiders in the Khalil Mack trade, so it's hard to fully fault former GM Ryan Pace for failing to find enough stars in the draft over his final years in the Windy City. But the Anthony Miller pick at number 51 overall in 2018 was a huge miss by Pace. He spent just 3 seasons in Chicago and never topped 656 yards in a season. Fred Warner, Mark Andrews, Michael Gallup, and Orlando Brown Jr. were among the notable standouts Chicago passed on in favor of Miller. Cincinnati Bengals, Billy Price. The Bengals got just 19 starts over 3 seasons out of ex-Ohio State offensive lineman Billy Price, the number 21 selection of the 2018 draft. They were able to semi-salvage the pick by dealing Price to the New York Giants in 2021 in exchange for defensive tackle B.J. Hill, who grew into a mainstay on that Cincinnati defense. Cleveland Browns, Baker Mayfield. Mayfield did help the Browns end an 18-year playoff drought in 2020, and yes, he did help them to a wild-card win over the Pittsburgh Steelers. But 1 playoff win over 4 seasons? Yeah, not good enough for a former first overall pick. Instead, the Browns could have taken Josh Allen or Lamar Jackson, 2 men who have been finding a lot more success as franchise quarterbacks in the AFC. Dallas Cowboys, Tristan Hill. For all the criticism Jerry Jones gets, the man's track record at the draft is pretty impressive. Now, that being said, he'd surely love a do-over on the Tristan Hill pick. The UCF defensive end was taken 58th overall by the Cowboys in 2019, even though the D-line wasn't exactly an area of need. In 4 years with Dallas, Hill appeared in just 25 games and registered, get this, half a sack. Denver Broncos, Drew Lock. It's not just that Locke, the number 42 selection in 2019, failed to solve Denver's long-term search for a starting QB. If they hadn't spent so much money and time trying to develop him, imagine who else they could have gotten at QB. Maybe they land a proven veteran like Tom Brady, Phillip Rivers, Jimmy Garoppolo, or Matthew Stafford. Or maybe they draft a future star like Jalen Hurts in 2020. Detroit Lions, Kerryon Johnson. Johnson showed some flashes for the Lions in his 2018 rookie year, but hindsight shows us this was not the best pick for the Lions. Johnson's best season in Detroit was a 641-yard campaign in 2018. Christian Kirk, Dallas Goedert, and Jesse Bates were among the notable talents taken shortly after Johnson that Detroit probably could have used. Green Bay Packers, Jordan Love. Just imagine if the Pack took T. Higgins or Michael Pittman Jr. You know, a stud wide receiver to complement Devontae Adams instead of Jordan Love 26 overall. One of those receivers could have made the difference and actually helped the Pack to a Super Bowl championship in 2020 or 2021. Unless he emerges as the team's next franchise quarterback, the Packers brass will never live that Love selection down. Houston Texans, Ross Blacklock. Bill O'Brien gutted the Texans draft capital in the Laramie Tunsil Kenny Stills trade. So in 2020, they didn't get to pick until the number 40 spot, which was used on TCU defensive tackle Ross Blacklock. Blacklock lasted just 2 seasons in Houston, accumulating 2 sacks and 29 game appearances. Houston wound up trading Blacklock to the Minnesota Vikings shortly before the start of the 2022 regular season. Indianapolis Colts, Rock Ya-Sin. The Colts drafted Ya-Sin in the second round, 34th overall back in 2019. He was a decent but not great cornerback in 3 seasons with the Colts, recording 2 picks and 20 pass defenses. Who went 2 picks after Ya-Sin? Oh, you know, just some guy named Deebo Samuel. Ever hear of him? Fellow second rounders and future stars Elton Jenkins and A.J. Brown would have been a nice alternative as well. Jacksonville Jaguars, C.J. Henderson. Using the number 9 selection on a cornerback only to give up on him 2 years later is quite the blemish to have on your draft resume. Henderson played 10 games over the 2020 and 2021 seasons before getting traded to Carolina. Plug your ears, Jaguars fans, because this team missed out on the likes of Tristan Wirfs, CeeDee Lamb, A.J. Terrell, and Justin Jefferson. Kansas City Chiefs, Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Chiefs GM Brett Veach usually hits on his first rounders, or he trades them in blockbusters to get guys like Patrick Mahomes and Orlando Brown Jr. But the Chiefs could surely use a do-over on the Clyde Edwards-Helaire pick. CEH never became the 1,000-yard rushing threat KC had envisioned when they took him 32nd overall in 2020. The next 3 picks were T. Higgins, Michael Pittman Jr., and DeAndre Swift. Jonathan Taylor, Antoine Winfield Jr., and Trayvon Diggs were among the other future stars taken soon after KC took CEH. Could you imagine a guy like Jonathan Taylor or T. Higgins in that Chiefs offense right now? Yeah, that would be brutal. Las Vegas Raiders, Alex Leatherwood. It was considered a massive reach when the Raiders took Leatherwood 17th overall in 2021. Sure enough, he lasted just 1 season in Sin City before the new regime of Dave Ziegler and Josh McDaniels released Leatherwood. Nothing more to say other than this was an absolute disaster of a pick. Los Angeles Chargers, Jerry Tillery. Tillery hasn't been a full-on draft bust by any means, but again, this list is based on which pick the team wishes they could have back. Tillery was solid but not great during his tenure with the Bolts, who waived him in the midst of the 2022 season. He was then picked up by the AFC West rival Raiders. Taking Tillery 28th overall in 2019 especially hurt, considering they could have had Deebo Samuel, who went 36th overall to San Francisco. Los Angeles Rams, John Franklin Myers. Incredibly, the Rams haven't had a first-round pick since 2016. And you know, it's actually worked out pretty well for them, especially after that Super Bowl 56 victory. So we're kinda nitpicking here by going with John Franklin Myers, who was the number 135 selection of the 2018 draft. He spent just 1 year with the Rams before getting cut. JFM later joined the New York Jets, where he has since revived his career. Miami Dolphins, Noah Igbenogany. Miami hit that jackpot when they took Tua Tagovailoa 5th overall in 2020. The same cannot be said about their other first-round selection from that year's draft, Noah Igbenogany. Igbenogany couldn't lock down a starting job during his tenure in South Beach, and he was largely picked apart in coverage, allowing an opposing QB passer rating of 135.3 in 2020 and 129.4 in 2021. Absolutely terrible numbers for a first-round cornerback. Minnesota Vikings, Mike Hughes. Fresh off an NFC Championship game appearance, the Vikings attempted to bolster their secondary by taking UCF corner Mike Hughes 30th overall in 2018. He lasted just 3 seasons in the Gopher State before getting traded to the Chiefs in the 2021 offseason. Among the guys taken soon after Hughes were Lamar Jackson, Nick Chubb, Shaquille Leonard, and Harold Landry. New England Patriots, N'Keal Harry. Bill Belichick's reputation for failing to draft and develop quality receivers struck again here in 2019. The Patriots used the number 32 selection on N'Keal Harry. That only amounted to 57 catches for 598 yards and 4 touchdowns. And as much as Patriots fans hate hearing about it, we're here to remind you that they passed on Deebo Samuel, DK Metcalf, AJ Brown, Deontay Johnson, and Terry McLaurin. New Orleans Saints, Zach Bond. The Saints have been one of the NFL's absolute top drafting teams since 2016. But the 2020 pick of Zach Bond has left a lot to be desired. The Wisconsin product was taken 74th overall that year, but New Orleans simply hasn't gotten much out of him. Bond has struggled to find quality playing time and has mostly been a backup linebacker throughout his NFL career. New York Giants, DeAndre Baker. The Giants had 3 first-round picks in the 2019 draft. Daniel Jones at least showed some flashes in year 4, and Dexter Lawrence has grown into a quality defensive lineman. But cornerback DeAndre Baker, the number 30 pick that year, well, that one does sting. Baker played 1 season for the Giants, but was later released after he and fellow NFL corner Quinton Dunbar were arrested for armed robbery. Baker went on to play 2 seasons for Kansas City in 2020 and 2021, but was unable to revive his career there. New York Jets, Sam Darnold. The Jets traded up with the Colts to take Darnold 3rd overall in 2018. It took the organization just 3 years to give up on him, though, as he was traded to the Panthers ahead of the 2020 draft. The Jets could have had another future superstar QB in Josh Allen or Lamar Jackson in that year's draft, which makes the Darnold pick even tougher to stomach. And after giving up on Darnold, they used the number 2 pick of 2021 on Zach Wilson, who was even worse. Philadelphia Eagles, Jalen Reagor. In 2 seasons with the Eagles, Reagor recorded 64 receptions for 695 yards and 3 touchdowns. The next guy taken was Justin Jefferson, who is arguably the best wide receiver in the league right now. At least Howie Roseman redeemed himself by snagging Devontae Smith in 2021 and by trading for AJ Brown in 2022. Pittsburgh Steelers, Devin Bush Jr. The Steelers traded up with the Denver Broncos so they could take Michigan linebacker Devin Bush 10th overall in 2019. Adding him to a star-studded defense looked like a good idea at the time, but it's now evident that the Steelers missed the mark here. Bush has been a serviceable starter, but nothing close to Pro Bowl caliber. They could have had another future star like Christian Wilkins, Chris Lindstrom, Brian Burns, or Dexter Lawrence instead of Bush. San Francisco 49ers, Javon Kinlaw. The 49ers traded DeForest Buckner for a 2020 first-round pick. Then, they traded down 1 spot with the Buccaneers, who snagged future Pro Bowl offensive tackle Tristan Wirfs Jr. With the number 14 pick, San Fran took South Carolina defensive tackle Javon Kinlaw. Unfortunately, his career has been marred by injuries, and it doesn't look like he'll ever be half the player Buckner was for San Fran. Or, what if San Fran had drafted Wirfs to complement superstar Trent Williams on the O-line? Wouldn't that have been something? Seattle Seahawks, LJ Collier. The Seahawks haven't been the best with first-round picks under GM John Schneider, but they usually make up for it by finding gems after round 1. We're talking guys like Bobby Wagner, Cam Chancellor, Richard Sherman, Russell Wilson, Tyler Lockett, and DK Metcalf. The Hawks took TCU linebacker LJ Collier 29th overall in 2019, but he's failed to grow into a reliable starter. Pete Carroll has since reduced to using Collier as a rotational piece, and really nothing more. Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Kyle Trask. Bucs GM Jason Light has aced his last few drafts, but in hindsight, using a 2021 second-rounder on Florida QB Kyle Trask looks like a pretty big mistake. Looking back, Light would have been wise to use the pick on a player who could have helped them win now during Tom Brady's final years. And Trask just doesn't look like someone who's going to eventually take over as Tampa's franchise QB. So taking him 64th overall just looks like a total waste. Tennessee Titans, Isaiah Wilson. And keeping this short and sweet, Tennessee used the number 29 pick in 2020 on Wilson. He played like literally one game for the franchise before off-the-field issues and legal woes prompted the Titans to trade him to Miami. Yeah, quite the miss by then GM John Robinson, to say the very least. Washington Commanders, Jamin Davis. Alright, look, we're not hating on Davis the player. It's just Washington had a top-tier front seven and did not need more help when they took Davis 19th overall in 2021. He's a serviceable player, but not a guy you'd spend a first-round pick on when linebacker just was not a position of need. But which other recent draft pick does your favorite NFL team wish they could take back? Join us in the comment section below. If you like this video and learned a thing or two, clicking the like button helps out a ton. And hey, we appreciate it. If this is your first time coming around to TPS though, subscribing is a great idea because we put out videos like this every single day. But as always, thanks for watching and we'll see you guys next time.